The heart monitor beeped softly in the dimly lit hospital room, its rhythm steady but weak. The nurse pulled the curtain aside and stepped in, adjusting the bag with routine precision. Another night, another patient. Nothing new. Or so she thought. From the moment she walked into this room, something about this man felt off. His presence was unusual, not because of his condition but because of the way he carried himself. Patients were typically vulnerable, seeking comfort or conversation. But this man was different. He barely spoke. When he did, his voice was measured, deliberate. He avoided personal questions, gave vague answers, and never reacted to pain the way others did. It was as if he was used to discomfort, like suffering was a part of him. She had seen all kinds of people in her years as a nurse, from the rich to the poor, from the humble to the arrogant. But this man didn't fit into any category. And then there were his eyes. There was something unsettling about them, not fear, not weakness, but control. He watched everything around him carefully, as if memorizing every movement, every word spoken near him. Who was he? The hospital records listed him as an unidentified man found unconscious near a bridge. No ID, no emergency contacts, no past. The police had been called, but with no missing person report matching his description, they left him to recover in the hospital's care. The strangest part? His bills were being paid in cash, large sums of it, always delivered by a different person, never the same one twice. That alone made the nurse suspicious. Then, one night, something happened that changed everything. She was checking his when the door cracked open slightly. A low whisper echoed from the hallway. At first, she ignored it, assuming it was another nurse or a doctor in passing. But then she heard his voice. She had never heard him speak with that tone before, calm, authoritative, nothing like a weak patient lying in bed. "No," he muttered under his breath. "Tell them I'll handle it myself. No mistakes this time." The nurse froze. Who was he talking to? Before she could step back, his eyes flicked toward her, meeting hers for the first time in days. There was no fear, no hesitation. Just an eerie calmness. "You shouldn't eavesdrop," he said softly. For the first time in her career, the nurse felt her stomach drop. This man wasn't just hiding something, he was someone important. And she had just stumbled onto a secret she was never meant to hear. The nurse swallowed hard, gripping the chart in her hands to steady herself. The room felt colder, quieter, like something had shifted. The man's eyes remained locked onto hers, unblinking, unreadable. She had dealt with difficult patients before, but this was different. This wasn't someone struggling with illness. This was someone calculating every move, every word. Trying to ignore the lingering tension, she forced herself to speak. I just came to check your," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. He gave a slow nod, as if letting her pretend she hadn't overheard his whisper. Of course. She busied herself with the drip, but her mind raced. What had she just heard? Who was he speaking to? What did he mean by "no mistakes this time"? It wasn't the kind of phrase a sick patient would say. It was the kind of phrase a man in control of something dangerous would say. As she turned to leave, she saw something out of the corner of her eye, his hand. His frail fingers rested lightly on the edge of the blanket, but there was something off about his nails. They were neatly trimmed, but the edges, they had faint traces of dirt. Dirt. Not the kind found in a hospital. The kind that came from being somewhere outside, somewhere hidden. She clenched her jaw and forced herself to walk out, her pulse pounding in her ears. Something wasn't right back at the nurse's station. She pulled up his chart again, scanning for anything she might have missed. Name, unidentified. Age, estimated early 50s. Condition, found unconscious near a bridge. No known injuries except exhaustion. She frowned. That didn't make sense. If he was unconscious from exhaustion, why did he need to be hidden? And why was there no police follow-up? Her fingers hesitated over the hospital system. Maybe there was something more. Maybe a search of missing persons or hospital transfers could give her a lead. She typed his description into the system. No results. Then she checked the billing records. What she saw made her blood run cold. Anonymous payments. Large amounts. Different depositors. No listed address. Someone didn't just want this man taken care of. Someone wanted him to disappear. The first real clue the next night, her curiosity got the best of her. During her shift, she carefully checked the man's room when he was asleep. The hospital bed was like any other, the side table unremarkable. But when she gently lifted his pillow, her breath caught. A golden business card lay underneath. It wasn't like a normal card, no name, no phone number. Just a symbol, embossed in black. A serpent wrapped around a key. Her fingers traced the strange design. She had never seen anything like it before. But as she turned the card over, her breath hitched. 3 words were printed on the back: "Do not trust." She barely had time to process before a deep voice broke the silence behind her. "You shouldn't be touching that." She spun around, heart hammering. The man was wide awake, watching her. He wasn't frail anymore. He wasn't weak. His posture was strong, his eyes sharp. And in that moment, she realized something terrifying. This man wasn't just hiding a secret. He was waiting for something. Or someone. And now, she had put herself right in the middle of it. The room felt smaller now, the air thick with something unspoken. The nurse clutched the golden card in her hand, her pulse pounding in her ears. The man in the bed no longer looked frail. His posture was different, his stare sharper. He wasn't just a patient anymore, he was someone else entirely. She took a step back, hiding the card in her pocket. "I was just checking your bedding," she said, forcing her voice to stay calm. A slow smirk curled at the corner of his lips. "Of course you were." She turned away quickly, pretending to adjust the monitor. Every fiber of her being told her to leave, to walk out of this room and never look back. But something inside her needed to know the truth. More questions than answers that night. When her shift ended, she went home and searched for the symbol on the golden card. Nothing. No business, no corporation, no historical reference. It was as if the emblem didn't exist. Frustrated, she typed in "golden card with serpent and key." A result popped up, but it wasn't what she expected. It was an old news article. The headline made her stomach drop. "Billionaire CEO mysteriously vanishes after corporate scandal, presumed dead." Her hands trembled as she clicked the link. The article was from 2 years ago. A powerful CEO, accused of embezzlement, disappeared before he could stand trial. The case collapsed due to lack of evidence, and his fortune was never recovered. Her eyes skimmed down to the photo of the missing man. She felt her breath hitch. It was him. The truth starts to surface. She barely slept that night. The next day, as soon as she arrived for her shift, she went straight to his room. This time, she didn't bother with small talk. "You're not just some random patient," she said, her voice steady. "You're him. The missing CEO." For a moment, he said nothing. Then, instead of denying it, he gave a small chuckle. "I was wondering when you'd figure it out." She crossed her arms. "Then why are you here? Why are you pretending to be someone else?" He exhaled and leaned back, studying her carefully. "Because the people who did this to me," he said slowly, "think I'm dead." Her stomach twisted. "And if they find out I'm alive," he paused, letting the silence fill in the rest. She shivered. "Then they'll finish what they started." He nodded. She should have walked away right then. She should have told security, should have erased everything she had learned. But she didn't. Instead, she asked the question that changed everything. Who did this to you? His gaze darkened. And then, for the first time, he told her the truth. The nurse stood frozen, her pulse pounding in her ears. She had spent years in this hospital, caring for all kinds of patients. Some were grateful, some were rude, but none had ever been a missing billionaire who was presumed dead. Now, she was standing inches away from a man who should not exist. She swallowed hard. Who did this to you? For a moment, the man didn't answer. He just watched her, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, he leaned forward, his voice barely above a whisper. Someone I trusted. The weight of his words sank in. Someone inside my own company, he continued. Someone who wanted me gone. The nurse's breath hitched. Why? He exhaled, rubbing his temple. Money. Power. Control. They framed me for crimes I didn't commit. When I realized what was happening, it was too late. They set me up, froze my accounts, and painted me as a criminal. My reputation was destroyed overnight. She frowned. But that still doesn't explain why you're here. Why you're hiding. His jaw tightened. Because when they realized I wasn't going down quietly, they tried to kill me. The hidden letter. The nurse's head spun. She had walked into this hospital room expecting just another shift. Now, she was tangled in a conspiracy far bigger than she could have imagined. She wanted to believe this was just some wild story, but something about the look in his eyes told her otherwise. Why are you telling me all of this? She asked. He smirked. Because you're the first person who actually bothered to put the pieces together. The air between them was thick with unspoken tension. The nurse hesitated, then made a decision she might regret later. She pulled the golden card from her pocket and placed it on the table. His face darkened the moment he saw it. Where did you get that? I found it under your pillow, she admitted. What does it mean? He exhaled sharply. It's not just a card. It's a warning. The nurse frowned. A warning from who? Instead of answering, he slowly reached for the drawer next to his bed. He opened it, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and handed it to her. Read this, he said. She unfolded the letter, her eyes scanning the words. But the more she read, the colder she felt. It wasn't just a letter. It was a confession. And it was signed by the very person who had betrayed him. A name revealed. The letter was short, but it carried enough weight to make the nurse's hands tremble. You were never supposed to find out. But business is business, and sacrifices must be made. You should have known better than to trust me. Now, you are nothing. And soon, you will be gone for good. At the bottom, a name was scrawled in ink. A name that meant something. A name she recognized. Her blood ran cold. This name, she whispered. This person, they're still out there. The man's expression remained grim. They never stopped looking for me, he said. And if they find out I'm alive. The nurse clenched the letter. Everything was starting to make sense now. Someone had tried to erase this man from existence. But they had failed. And now, he had something that could bring them down. But there was just one problem. Someone else already knew he was alive. And they were coming for him. The hospital room felt smaller now, suffocating. The nurse's fingers trembled as she clutched the letter, her heart pounding. The man in the bed, the missing billionaire, wasn't just some unlucky victim of a business betrayal. He had been targeted, erased, and left for dead. And now, someone knew he was alive. She turned to him, her voice low. You said they never stopped looking for you. How do you know? His eyes flickered toward the window, as if expecting to see someone lurking in the shadows. Because the money hasn't stopped moving. She frowned. What do you mean? His fingers drummed against the table. Before I disappeared, I had access to accounts that weren't supposed to exist, black money, off-the-books deals, hidden transactions. The kind of wealth that doesn't show up on balance sheets. The nurse's stomach twisted. I knew they were after me, so I did something they didn't expect. I siphoned off a fraction of it, enough to vanish. I left them scrambling, trying to plug holes in their finances while I went into hiding. She exhaled sharply. And now they've found you? His jaw tightened. Not yet. But they're close. He leaned forward. And if I don't disappear again, they'll finish what they started. The first real threat. The nurse gripped the letter tightly, scanning the signature again. This person, this traitor, she murmured, they still have everything, don't they? He nodded. They took my company, my reputation, my life. They convinced the world I was either a thief or dead. And now, they control everything I built. She felt her breath hitch. The level of deception was staggering. But why go through all of this, she pressed. Why fake charges? Why not just force you out? A bitter smirk crossed his face. Because I had something they couldn't steal outright. He tapped his temple. His mind. I was the key to it all. The one who made the deals, who had the connections, who knew how everything worked. They could take my company, but they couldn't take my knowledge. The realization sent chills down her spine. So, they didn't just want you gone, she whispered. They wanted you, silenced. He nodded. Permanently. The stranger who knew too much. A sharp knock at the door made them both freeze. The nurse's breath caught. She glanced at the man, but he didn't move. His entire body had gone still. Another knock. Louder this time. Sir? A voice called from the other side. I was told to deliver a message. The nurse's hands clenched into fists. The man motioned for her to stay quiet. Then, slowly, he spoke. Who sent you? Silence. Then, a folded white envelope was slid under the door. The sound of footsteps faded away. The nurse hesitated before picking it up. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper. 2 words were written in bold, black ink, we know. She looked up, eyes wide. The man had already risen to his feet, his face unreadable. We need to leave, he said, his voice low. She swallowed hard. Leave? He turned to her, his expression deadly serious. If we stay here, we won't make it through the night. The walls of the hospital suddenly felt too thin, the air too heavy. The nurse's hands trembled as she stared at the note, we know. 2 simple words that sent a chill through her bones. She looked up at the man, the missing billionaire, and saw something terrifying in his eyes. Not panic. Preparedness. Like he had been expecting this moment. We need to leave, he repeated, his voice calm but urgent. Now. The nurse hesitated. How? There's security, cameras, staff everywhere, his gaze sharpened. You don't think I planned for this? Before she could respond, he ripped out his $4, tossing it onto the bed like it was nothing. The frail patient act was gone. And in its place stood a man who knew how to survive. The escape begins. The nurse rushed to his side as he steadied himself. He was still weak, but not nearly as helpless as she had thought. He pulled a small device from under the mattress, a hospital key card. Her eyes widened. How did you? He smirked. You'd be surprised what people leave lying around. Before she could question him, he motioned toward the door. We don't have much time. The nurse's mind raced. If they were caught sneaking a patient out of the hospital, security would get involved. And if security got involved, the people after him would know exactly where to find him. Her heart pounded. She had a choice. Walk away and let him handle this alone. Or risk everything to help him. She exhaled sharply. Fine. But if we get caught, you better have a backup plan. His smirk didn't fade. Oh, I have more than one. The first close call they moved quickly. The nurse grabbed a wheelchair, helping him into it to keep up the illusion. He slumped forward, playing weak again, as she pushed him down the hallway. She forced herself to stay calm, nodding at the passing staff as if this were just a routine transfer. But her hands tightened on the wheelchair handles when she spotted a man standing near the elevators. A man in a black suit. He wasn't a doctor. He wasn't a visitor. And he was watching them. Her breath hitched. The billionaire didn't move, but his voice was barely above a whisper. Don't stop. Don't look at him. Just keep going. Her pulse pounded. She forced herself to keep walking, pushing the wheelchair past the man. She felt the stranger's gaze linger. Felt the moment of hesitation, like he was deciding whether to follow them or not. Then, the elevator doors opened. The nurse pushed inside, pressing the lowest level without a second thought. The doors slid shut. She let out a shaky breath. That was close. The billionaire exhaled, eyes still locked on the floor indicator. Too close. Then, without warning, he reached into the wheelchair cushion and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Her stomach dropped. She hadn't put that there. She snatched it from his hands, unfolding it quickly. 4 words. You're not alone. Run. Her blood turned ice cold. The nurse's hands trembled as she clutched the note. You're not alone. Run. She turned to the billionaire. His face was unreadable, but his eyes held something she hadn't seen before, urgency. The elevator hummed as it descended, the dim glow of the floor indicator ticking lower. We need to move fast, he murmured. She swallowed hard. How do we get out? He glanced at the panel and pressed the stop button between floors. The elevator jerked to a halt. The nurse's stomach twisted. What are you doing? He ignored her, pushing himself out of the wheelchair with more strength than she expected. He pried open the emergency hatch in the ceiling. Get up, he ordered. Panic flared in her chest. Are you insane? We can't climb out. His eyes darkened. If we don't, we won't get another chance. Something about his tone sent a chill through her spine. A second later, she understood why. A sharp clang echoed above them. She looked up. Someone was on the roof of the elevator. Her breath caught in her throat. The billionaire motioned to her again. Now. She had no time to think. Grabbing his arm, she climbed through the hatch, heart hammering in her chest. The moment they were both up, she saw it, a flashlight beam sweeping across the elevator shaft from above. Someone was coming. The billionaire didn't hesitate. He grabbed a maintenance ladder running along the side of the shaft. Follow me. She had no choice. She climbed, gripping the cold metal rungs with shaking hands, every movement slow and careful. Below them, a deep voice muttered, "They're not here." Her stomach lurched. They had seconds before whoever was hunting them figured out where they had gone. The billionaire climbed faster. He reached the next floor up, pushing at the panel of a closed maintenance hatch. It didn't budge. Help me, he hissed. The nurse climbed beside him, pressing her palms against the metal and pushing with all her strength. The hatch gave way. Just as the sound of movement echoed below, the billionaire pulled her through the gap. She tumbled onto the concrete floor of an empty hospital storage room. He landed beside her, slamming the hatch shut. Silence. They sat there, breathing hard. The nurse pressed her back against the wall, heart racing. What now? The billionaire ran a hand through his hair, eyes locked on the door. We find out who sent them. The truth finally revealed. The storage room was cold and dark, filled with shelves stacked with forgotten medical supplies. The nurse wiped sweat from her brow, forcing herself to focus. She turned to him. They were waiting for you. He nodded grimly. They knew I was alive. Her mind reeled. How? Who told them? The billionaire's jaw tightened. Only a few people knew I was here. The realization hit her at the same time it hit him. His hands curled into fists. It was someone inside the hospital. A traitor. A spy. Her stomach twisted. That means, they could still be here. A long silence. Then, he spoke, his voice low. Then we need to turn the game around. She swallowed hard. How? His smirk was grim. We stop running. The last betrayal. The billionaire pulled something from his hospital gown, a small USB drive wrapped in a piece of fabric. The nurse's breath hitched. What's that? The real reason they want me dead. Her heart pounded. You had this the whole time? He exhaled. I kept it hidden. It contains the truth. Every illegal transaction, every forged document, every deal they made behind closed doors. The proof they framed me. The nurse's mind raced. If this got out, it could destroy the people after him. But before she could respond, the door to the storage room burst open. A figure in a lab coat stood in the doorway. The nurse gasped. You? The head doctor of the hospital. Their trusted superior. The doctor's lips curled into a smirk. You really thought you could hide from us? She felt sick. The betrayal had been closer than they realized. The billionaire clenched his fists. It was you all along. The doctor shrugged. You were supposed to die 2 years ago. You should have stayed dead. The nurse's blood ran cold. The billionaire's voice was eerily calm. But I didn't. The doctor pulled a small syringe from his pocket. That's about to change. The nurse's heart pounded as the doctor stepped into the storage room, syringe in hand. There was no hesitation in his movements, no remorse in his smirk. He had come to finish what started 2 years ago. The billionaire didn't flinch. His eyes locked onto the doctor's. So it was you, he murmured. You're the one who kept them updated. You're the one who told them I was here. The doctor chuckled, shaking his head. Oh, don't flatter yourself. They always knew you were alive. They were just waiting for the right moment to take care of you. The nurse's stomach twisted. This whole time, the hospital hadn't been his hiding place, it had been his trap. And they had walked right into it. The doctor raised the syringe. You know, this would have been easier if you had just stayed in your bed. Now I have to make it look like an accident. The billionaire smirked. And what if I don't go quietly? The doctor's eyes darkened. You don't have a choice. The moment he took another step forward, the billionaire moved. Despite his weakened body, his reflexes were sharp. He lunged forward, knocking the syringe from the doctor's hand. It clattered to the ground. The nurse reacted on instinct. She kicked the syringe across the room, out of reach. The doctor snarled, eyes flashing with fury. That was a mistake. The billionaire's voice was ice. So was betraying me. Before the doctor could strike, the billionaire grabbed a metal tray from a nearby shelf and swung. It slammed against the doctor's head with a sickening crack. The doctor collapsed to the floor, groaning in pain. The nurse's chest heaved. Is he? The billionaire shook his head. No. But we don't have long before someone comes looking for him. He turned to her, eyes steady. Are you ready to end this? She swallowed hard. Then she nodded. Exposing the truth, they didn't run. They didn't hide. Instead, they walked straight to the security office. The billionaire slammed the USB drive onto the desk. Pull up the hospital security footage. The guard frowned. Sir, you can't just, the billionaire's voice was cold steel. Do it. Something in his tone made the guard obey. Within seconds, the screen filled with security footage. There it was. The doctor sneaking into the billionaire's room. The mysterious visitors. The delivered threats. Everything. The guard's face paled. This is a crime. The nurse turned to the billionaire. And the USB? He exhaled. That's the proof they never wanted the world to see. The guard reached for the phone. I need to report this. The billionaire smiled. Yes. You do. Within minutes, the hospital was in chaos. Security swarmed the storage room. The doctor was arrested. And the billionaire's name was cleared. The final lesson: days later, the billionaire sat in a private office, freshly dressed in a tailored suit.